All right. Welcome. Saturn, let's turn that music down. It's so fun. Neon ice cream, that's called. Hey, everybody. Stone Fruit Roll Up every Thursday. Your live show. You're watching the show about building the show that you're watching right now. This is our, I don't know, 100 and something show. And I couldn't be more excited because I feel like we finally hit this awesome vibe. And now we get to have a really exciting topic, guest, and presentation. It's almost as if the stage has been set for this perfect timing to welcome the wonderful, talented, and creative Jody Wissing to the Stone Fruit Roll Up, to her Stone Fruit Roll Up debut, if you will. This is an incredibly juicy episode because we're going to have a chance to peek a little bit behind the curtain at the creative brilliance that is Jody Wissing. I have never seen anybody take a PowerPoint presentation. I've learned to just call them slides though, because it can happen in any platform. So we'll get more into that and turn it into something I can't not watch and engage with. She is the antidote to death by meeting. Her particular approach to creating presentations is one of the most interesting and clever formulas I've ever run across. And I had the great fortune to work intimately with Jody, both with a client, shout out to 304 Coaching, and also on our own individual projects. She's helped me with Stone Fruit, and I've helped her launch her shingle as well. And that's been a very cool collaboration because today you're going to see what I've actually learned, and that Jody's process is so effectual that even me, a wordsmith, not a visual designer, can create a presentation that really wow. So, without further ado, Jody calls herself a presentation createologist, and I think that's the most interesting term. And we're going to find out what that means, see a slide makeover, hear about her process, tell some stories. She's sure got some interesting things to say, I'm sure, about her summer with her Airstream trailer, being a digital nomad and living her best life. So, without further ado, please welcome to the Stone Fruit Roll Up, Miss Jody Wissing.
Hi.
Yay! Hey,
That was quite an intro. Wow. Thank you.
hey. Indeed. We are so excited to have you here, and there are already some wonderful folks in the comments who are juicy and excited to be here and delighted by some of my wordsmithery. So you inspire me. Saturn, will you turn that music down just a little bit more, honey?
I can
There
start
we go.
dancing.
Very good, very good. Jody, oh my God, I've waited all summer for you to come on the roll up and tell us all about your magic. You are an inspiration to me in so many ways, and a lot of it has around is around your like freedom of just freedom of movement and freedom of life and the ability to create your own reality and whatever tickles you. And then also you've got some pretty cool professional chops. So thanks for coming on board today. I
Thank
really
you for
appreciate
having
you.
me.
The honor is mine. Let's start by telling the fine folks at home a little bit about presentation createology because, you know, I might think that's the newest flavor of Starburst fruit chew. If I don't know,
I like it. I like
of
it.
course it's going to be a
We gotta
stone
put some
fruit.
fruit there.
Raspberry, a good old fashioned stone fruit, I guess. If you don't know what a presentation createology is, and you may not, this is a good time and a good space to dive in and find out what that actually means to you and why you call yourself that.
Well, it started years ago when I got my first ever copy of uh, Fast Company magazine. And it was the first Fast Company magazine back in, oh my gosh, the 90s or something. And everybody had these really cool titles. And they would post them like in these little columns. And there was a guy that worked for Fruit of the Loom, and he was an underwear creatologist. And I don't do anything with underwear, but I really like
Yet.
the Createologist name. So I kept that in the back of my head even since the 90s. And so when I started doing presentations, I do a lot of design work, but I do so much more than that. And so the Createology, in my mind, really encompasses the artistic part of it, the strategic part of it, all of the things that go into it. And there's just some basic, easy communication concepts. And when you apply them, whether you're doing a presentation yourself, the DIY, as I call it, or you hire somebody, whatever it is, you have to have that. You have to have all of that. You have to have great content. You have to have it really resonate with your audience. It has to have some artistic flair to it. It has to have context. It's got to be visualized. So there's a lot of pieces, and Createology just throws it all in there.
It's certainly more than just graphic design, right? I think we think of like, okay, I have a presentation, and we'll get into like the value of presentation itself in just a minute. But I think the preconceived notion is, okay, I create a little outline, and either I have a template that I've used for 100 years, or I'm going to use a template from the library in whatever, PowerPoint or whatever. Or I'm going to give it to and outsource it to a professional designer who's going to give it a slick makeover, and it'll look sexy. But that's just a two-dimensional perspective, I think, on presentations. Now that I know how you do it, so tell us how it's different than outsourcing it to a traditional graphic designer, if you would.
I think, oh my, that's a loaded question. I mean, you can have the prettiest presentation in the world, and if it doesn't resonate with your audience and it doesn't have the right content in it, it's not really made for your audience, it's not going to resonate with them, and it's not going to work. And I think there's a process, and it can be pretty simple. I think everybody, I want to start by saying everybody that is not a professional speaker, it's like, oh, you have to do a presentation. You're like, oh geez, whether it's for a meeting, whether it's a keynote, whatever it is, and you kind of get in this mindset of, oh, I have to do a presentation. A keynote has to have lots of, it has to have all these things, and it's got to have slides, and I have to do this and I have to do that with it. And I don't think we think of it as just, it's a conversation and you have some visuals to go with it. And it's really just using slides as a support mechanism for a really good talk. And so when you think of it that way, and you start a master class, LeVar Burton said something that really resonated with me. He's like, I get nervous when I'm acting, and I would just look at one person and think I'm having an individual conversation whenever he was acting. And I've had a lot of people tell me that's a really helpful way to look at it. And so you think of it that way, and then you just make some really nice slides to go with that to support what you're talking about.
Say more about that, Jody. Like, conversation. I think they're either, checking a box because they were told to do it by,
Exactly.
Or they said you have to have, someone somewhere said you're not a real business unless you have a pitch deck, or someone, had an idea. Like, what is the point of a presentation, and how is it a conversation?
It's to communicate an idea or something, and it will always have a call to action. So if you're told you have to present some statistics for a meeting, just to give an update on whatever your job might be, that's still important. That's like a really important thing. And a lot of people might just give an update, but if you're giving an update, you probably want people to have some kind of action with it. Of, you think about a conversation. If I tell you I'm doing this thing with this presentation, or if I tell somebody I'm on stone fruit roll up today, and I'm having a conversation. And so if I had to do a presentation on that, it might look a little different, but I'm still communicating that there's still this great thing. Well, I want you to attend this. That'd be my call to action, right? You got to watch stone fruit roll up. But when you just think about it, it's a conversation. It's nothing more than having a conversation that is probably a little more structured than you would have as a one-on-one, but it also has some visuals to go with it. Visuals are, you use those so you don't have to use as many words.
I I think the thing I learned from you that was the most shocking or the biggest kind of paradigm shift is that, like, previously I'd thought of a presentation as the slide deck, like as the PowerPoint, like as the thing. And the way you talk about presentations in this context and with what you just previously shared, it is you don't even have to have a slide deck in order to successfully deliver a presentation in the Jody Wissing style, or you're, following your framework, as long as you're addressing your kind of key pillars to what makes a good presentation. Accurate? Question mark.
Accurate. I think slides add visual interest. People are visual, and anytime that you can add a visual element to it, it really helps them understand what you're trying to talk about, and it just gives context, it gives better understanding, and it takes less time. So if I'm having a conversation with you and I'm talking about, a process or something like that, to be able to graphically represent that, maybe put some animation with it, doesn't have to be anything super complex. I think what happens when people know they have to do a presentation, they know how to put together content. It's usually in the form of an outline. The outline ends up on the slides, and they a lot of people just don't know how to get from
And then they read them
bullet
out
point.
loud.
Exactly. They don't know how to get to the next step. It's like they have a great idea. They have great concepts. They have a good message. They have a good idea, a good message, but they just don't know how to take it that extra step of going, okay, I have this outline. I kind of know what I need to talk about. I have these pieces to it. And when you put a simple structure around it, it's easy to get that message across and to do that. So
I'll have you know that ever since you shared your deeply held beliefs about bullet points, that I never used them since. In fact, if I do start a bulleted list, I'll be like, oh no, like Jody's not going to like this if we have a bulleted list. Why? Give your little thing about why bulleted, like a bullet, is anti-thematic to adult learning.
okay, first of all, bullets aren't wrong. Okay, I just want to
Okay,
say,
well, then
do
I
have
guess
their
I'll
place.
loosen it up.
I think I might actually have something about that in the presentation piece of this that I can show, but bullet points are not bad. You have to start with those, but and this is if there's one concept I like to teach about presentations, it's like, don't limit the number of slides that you're going to use. So many times people go, you make a presentation and you can only give me 1 slide or 10 slides, and it might be for an hour presentation. And every single time I do any kind of training, and I do a lot of training for presentations, I ask people at the end of my training, how many slides do you think you saw? And they'll be like, oh, 35, 40, 50. Somebody may even go up to 80. And I'm like, how about 250? And they're like, I can't even wrap my head around that. Like, there's no way that you showed me that many slides. I'm like, yeah, I did. But because I put 1 point per slide, I didn't show you a bunch of bullet points. I had some animations in there, maybe video, maybe some other different media types. They're engaged. We live in this age of entertainment, and to park on a slide with some text and talk about it is not engaging. It's just not. So
It sure
anytime
sounds like something you hate called death by meeting.
I do hate death by meeting. I have the attention span of a gnat. I'm ADHD, I'm dyslexic, you name it. Like, you gotta keep me.
Well, I think your point about like why death by meeting sucks, and we worked on that a lot in your positioning.
Yeah, we did.
Why it sucks is because your time, people's time, like time is literally the most valuable resource that you will ever have, and you will ever not get back. So when you leave a presentation, in a work environment, or any environment, honestly, and you just, the first thing you say is, well, I'll never get that hour back. That's the kind of attitude that you're fighting against, and you're doing it
Let
by
me
inspiring
expand
people.
on that.
Oh yeah,
Since you
here's the
called this
soapbox time.
ROI
Go.
and DIY, which is like my latest thing of just thinking about the return on investment from doing a presentation yourself. And what I mean by that, when you look at the return on investment, what I like to tell people is, think about who's in your room. If you have to take who, if I look at everybody that's online here, what is an hour worth to you of your time, just salary wise, getting stuff done? You kind of have to look at that. When I'm with a business, I look at that as kind of maybe hourly rate. But you look at that, what is that hour worth to people? And if you don't give them value in that hour, that is, yes, an hour they'll never get back. But think about it, that if that was an hour of productivity, they got some good stuff out of it, that's an hour well spent. If they spent an hour in there and they still have to go out and get information from another hour, you've used 2 hours of their time. So they've had the death by meeting, then they've had that. So look at,
and the residual croaking.
right. But you look at who you have in the room, and think about that piece. Then think about your message. What happens if they don't do the call to action on whatever it is that you're speaking about? If you're in there and you're speaking, you got to have a call to action. There's got to be something, there's some message, there's something you need people to understand, there's something you need them to do. There's something there. What is the value of that? And if they don't do it, what's the consequence? What's missing? What's at stake? When you think about that, that's your return on investment. And that's where you want to clearly communicate what you want people to do as their next step after you communicate your idea.
I would shamelessly plug that if you're struggling with what that messaging is, you should call me.
Yes.
Jumping in the middle of your piece to just drop a little thing. Although it's an excellent segue for how we collaborate and how having the messaging and the copy and brand strategy at your fingertips can create even more magical unicorns pooping rainbows when you and I work on something.
You were so offended when I originally told you poop rainbows because you're a unicorn.
I was offended. Maybe it's like I really didn't know anybody yet, which is probably the truth, where I'm like not quite ready to be my like full fat version of myself, and with a bunch of colleagues I've just met. So now it's our signature jam, you and me.
It is.
Indeed. So that'll be an awesome segue. We can look at some of that collaboration in just a minute, because I know what would a talk about presentations be without an actual presentation. But before we do this, something I've always been curious about you, and I hope that you'll indulge me. When I first learned that this was your jam, I was like, what? What? This lady is passionate about PowerPoint. And again, I know I'm misusing a brand name for a thing. Over time, the more I've gotten to know you, you are bananas about presentations, and it is so contagious. It shows. I've learned so much from you. Tell me about how you got bit by this love bug. When was the first time that you sat in a presentation and was like, ah, or maybe sat in one was like, I could do better, and redid it? I just would love to know a little of your origin story about when you just like fell in love with presentations as a communications tool. So tell me a little bit about that, because I'm like, seriously, always been like amazing.
I'm not sure when that exact moment happened, but I can tell you a little bit of my history. I was put in a position at a very young age as a market training manager for McDonald's. And so sounds, Hamburger University, like all the jokes you want about it. It was really an excellent experience. It was back in the 80s where we didn't have a lot of technology, but computers had first come in. You had 16 colors. It was a thing called Presenter. You couldn't even put pictures on it. You could only put text and bullet points. So I'm sure some of my early stuff was pretty bad. But over the years, I always appreciated that. I found myself in jobs where I was doing presentations. And then about 7 years ago, I got the opportunity to go to work for a technology company. I still do work for them, even as a contractor. I love them. And my chief marketing officer comes up to me before I was hired. She said, I might have the best job for you, or it might be your worst nightmare. I'm not sure. But I would love somebody that not only does presentations, but can set up systems for our company and do this kind of thing. And I'm like, angel singing, dream job. So
Aw.
I was doing that for the last 7 years and absolutely loved it, and just wanted to go out on my own and be able to create a company around that. And I don't know why I love it. I think it's such a misunderstood tool. Maybe that's why I like it, because I have a unique perspective on it. I don't just see it as presentations. I see it as a conversation that is super powerful, that you can do a lot with. You can pull media in. You're a curator. You're not just doing, you're not just talking to somebody. It's like you can pull in video and you can pull in copy and you can pull in like all these different things. I even have, y'all love this. So I was traveling around with this company, and I was doing presentation training, and I like using physical objects. And I was telling people about this. So on my desk, I had this stove burner. And when I got super busy, I'd keep it on the back of my desk. When somebody bring me a new project, I'd pull out my burner. I'm like, just put it on the back burner because I don't have time to work on it right now.
What a visual.
It was like my visual, right? So I'm flying with it. I forget to put it in my checked bag. Let me just say the TSA it had wires hanging out of it and stuff. Yeah, that didn't go well. It was fun. But you can use physical objects. You can use anything. And you don't even have to have slides. I suggest that you do, just because that's what I do. And I like making slides. But yeah, there you go. That was a long-winded answer.
Hey, I just seen your eyes light up, and we have a comment coming in from Tony in Silver Spring. Hi, Tony. Thanks for coming by. He wants to know, Jody, do you remember the first time someone said to you, I loved your presentation?
I think I was teaching at a it's the first one I can remember when you saying that, with you saying that. I was teaching at a conference, ministry comm, and I did this thing on small marketing budgets. And I had a lot of people come up to me after that, and they were just enamored with my presentation. I'm like, wow, cool. This is great. So yeah, it was kind of one of those moments. It's like I put so much effort into it and it worked. And yeah. And then I look back on that presentation and I'm like, oh gosh, I would do that differently today.
Okay. Well, we're all victim of that.
Everybody gets better. If you're not getting better, you're not growing. You know how that goes.
That's right. That's right. Well, let's stop talking about it and start being about it, because I think that until you've seen one of Jody's presentations, these are wonderful ideas that sound good in theory, but it really is the 360-degree experience of how you create these like visually stunning content journeys that meander you along in a beautiful aesthetic experience in onboarding the learning that you need to do and depositing you right at that call to action. So I know you're going to share a presentation with us, and some of it is a makeover from a presentation I put together before I knew you, and what you did with it after. And I think you have something fun to show us from a presentation I created on my own without Jody's help, just based on what I'd learned from her. So we'll get ready if you're ready. Are you ready?
I think I'm ready.
Okay, Mama.
Okay.
Here we go. And shout out to everybody who's here with us today, live on LinkedIn and on YouTube. And again, you're watching the Stone Fruit Roll Up today with Jody Wissing, and she's telling us all about presentation Createology. Do your thing, Mama.
All right. Well, let me show you a little bit of a presentation. And again, I'm Jody Wissing. I wasn't going to go over all these, but Rebecca told me to keep them on here.
Oops. So. Yes, keep it on there.
And this is Createologist. We talked a lot about that in the beginning. Storyteller, conceptualist. Like there's so many things that can go into being a Createologist. So there it is, all rolled up.
I would encourage you not only to do this part because it's important for you, and this show is about being meta, right? Meta is better. So like the reason someone does a show like this is to create, awareness and visibility, but also to present the thing. And I would challenge you that a lot of our audience today here in the live on LinkedIn and YouTube every Thursday at noon Eastern Standard Time, or in the replay, or someone who have to present something that pitches themselves. So I think it's important to show how that can be done. In fact, I'm going to take myself offline and let you do your thing, but thank you for being vulnerable.
All right. Well, I'm going to start with this thing. I see everything through slides, literally, and I probably almost wrecked my truck. I was towing my Airstream, and I had to take a picture of this because most of the time it says rock slides, and I'm like, slide area, everything's a slide area. So anyway, I just think in slides, and this is my little travel thing. Rebecca mentioned I'm a digital nomad. I've been traveling for the last 2 months. I am home now for a little while, but I was living in that for 2 months and traveling all over the West Coast and doing work. And it's, I see presentations as an adventure, and I live my life as an adventure. So there you go. If you follow me on social, that you're going to see a lot of that and not as much on presentations. One thing I like to really mention before I get into anything about my process is there's more than one right way to do these. I have a system that works. I love it. Rebecca has actually just proven that it works because working with her, I mean, I don't even have to help her with presentations anymore. She's like, she got it.
That's not true. That's not true. I need you to tell me that they look really
I have
good.
proof in here that this works, and that we'll see.
Yeah.
Y'all can be the judge. So one of the things that she talked about is just it's important to have a simplified process. And my slide process is just this. And this is kind of everything that I teach falls into these 3 buckets. It's simplify, organize, and visualize. If you simplify your message, you simplify everything by just having only what somebody needs to understand your message and what's going to make it stronger. That's the way to go. So I kind of simplify things because you do start with everything. How many of y'all have made the bulleted lists, right? And you throw them in there. You probably don't need all of that. So you kind of can go through it. I teach some simplification processes, then organizing it and organizing your message, not only each slide, but also your whole message. So it just has that good flow to it. Put some structure around it with that, and then visualizing. Anytime you can use some media, anything, some icons to give it a little visual interest. You can use pictures. You can use video.
I have to interrupt you here because there's something that you use that I don't think I've ever really clocked. Not, I felt it viscerally, but not like in real life, is how much motion when those animations drop down, that activity really kind of, it just as a human being, like excited me. And like, your work has so much motion to it that's not from a video necessarily. And I think that's a really strong element here. Thank you.
Yeah. And what you're speaking to, I put some little, motion in here, but whenever I have a process and I have to show how something works, isn't it always easier to see it actually moving? So I actually will create and take a process and animate it. That's why I end up with a lot of slides too.
I was going to say, this is why 50 slides is not unusual
40
for you.
slides to animate something properly, but then people get it. They have this understanding. I'm not sure I think we have one of those in here, don't we?
We think and if we still have my presentation, there's a little crown that happens, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And I want to take a moment to direct your attention to the comments, because our girl Krista is here from 304 Coaching, and also your colleague Ed Tyler, and she says that she has memorized. She has that memorized for everything she does, thanks to Jody. Simplify, organize, and visualize.
I'm trying to remember the song we did around that at one point. There was some song that we used to like as a parody. I can't remember it now.
Well, I guess you needed to simplify, organize, and visualize.
I know, right?
Back to you.
So I am just going to show a few slides and talk about. Rebecca did a presentation, and
sorry, everybody.
Are you good?
Yep. Sorry, everybody. My bad.
She provided a presentation. She did this presentation. I was in attendance. It was phenomenal. Her slides were very basic. And so she asked me to rework this presentation after I had been a part of it. And I just, again, huge fan. Like all of my copy is written by Rebecca. It's just, she's the best. It's good.
The match made in heaven for sure.
It sure is. So anyway, I'm going to show you a couple of slides. I have her whole presentation in here. I don't think we need to go through all of it, but I want to highlight some pieces of it. Just, that's what she provided. It was just the black slide. Okay. There we go. Like, it's not working. We just, created a title slide with it. We did a whole template that has her stone fruit branding in it. So it's supporting her brand. And everybody that knows Rebecca knows she is a big personality, and you have to have a picture of her in here. So I was like, you need to introduce yourself. I want a picture of you. I love this photo shoot that she had done. But that gives it makes it personal. And I always tell people, start with something personal in there. Even it helps if you're not used to presenting, and you kind of break the ice with something about yourself in there. Makes it a little easier as you're going into your presentation. So we had these slides. One of the things that I am adamant about is not starting with an agenda, and I don't know that you had an agenda in here. I don't think that you did.
I don't think I had an agenda, but
go ahead.
I was going to say, but every single slide was like black background, white font, like.
Oh, it's good. I'll show
leader. Yeah.
I have them in here.
Talk about looking back and being like.
This one was she wanted to answer, your job is whatever. We put this story in because I love it when people start with stories. That is the best way to connect with your audience. So we wanted to use a story that provided context. So this is what we added. You're a copywriter. This was about copywriting. So whatever your job is, but today I need you to be a baker, and I need you to bake me a cake, and I need you to make me this. It'll look like a professional cake, like a decorator made it. I'm sure you have everything you need. And this is probably, if you're anything like me, what it was going to end up like. Everybody's seen these Pinterest fails, right?
I love nailed it. I love nailed it so much.
I love nailed it. So then it's like, okay, we want you to be a photographer instead. Need you to photograph this baby. It'll stay asleep. No big deal. Just snap a couple of pictures, right? Yeah. This is what I get when I ask for headshots from people. And so hire a professional headshot person. I'm just saying.
But you just had your headshots redone, so that's exciting.
I did. And if you need a referral, I have somebody.
Fabulous.
I'll put it in the chat.
Fabulous. We'll add those to the show notes, y'all.
And Jerry, if you're on, you can feel free to put it in there.
Yeah. Add the comment, Jerry. Everybody wants to know. Good plug.
But seriously, professionals make their jobs look easy. So when it comes to you need to be a writer now. You might be looking something like this. And today, Rebecca is going to hope to make your life easier because this is her presentation. But that's how we were able to give it context.
None of this was in here for anybody who didn't it was on the edge of their seats. Okay. Jody added that whole story to it, and with mirth and just frivolity, but also with the contextualization. So I was like, wow, go on.
Okay, and so this was the slide she provided.
Yeah, that was it. This was the start.
This is what we ended up with. And it just adds personality. We visualized it, and we, just made some of the copy bigger, some little.
and organize it, yeah.
Yeah. And then why bother? We have a bullet list, right? Again, bullets aren't wrong, but, we can do better. So why bother? And then we have connections. We put each one of these on a separate slide. So she's able to talk through each one of these. And as she talks through it, you can talk about, I'm resonating, harmonize with your people.
And that was because it was organized. Because I didn't have that little subtitle until you did this. So how you organized it allowed for a fully fleshed version. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we were able to just put each one of those, and this is still my favorite photo ever.
That one's for you, Saturn. That one's for you, Saturn. Saturn loves bears.
I just went hiking where that lady got killed by the grizzly bear, so everybody I know was sending me the article from it. I
Oh
still
wow.
I still hike.
You made it. You're still here.
I did. And then we have what's not working. Again, we did kind of the same thing. So you can kind of get an idea of how that works. I'm going to scroll over here. Oh, I just have to put that one up because it's got a poop emoji. See, it's moving too.
and moving. Exactly.
It's like, okay, there's so many places we can go with that. Okay, so well, let me show you the original slide. So we did, what is marketing copy? And this is where we pulled in some,
there
I
it is.
call her a unique animal, poop and rainbows,
Poop and rainbows,
personality driven, and creative.
Wait for the crown.
The little and then we talk about what marketing copy is not. And so again, it's just some fun things that you can put in to visualize. And I mean, this could be bullet points, but instead put in some little icons and animation, and it just gives it some life.
Hey, look, both of us have just one right way. As part of our presentation, there is no
I know.
Hey.
Great minds think alike.
Indeed.
Okay. Then we had use pictures. We have the ducks.
That was my original, you guys.
Yeah.
That was it. I think there was a duck and a cookie. That's it, right?
Yeah, I just got to get to the cookies. But I have this is a list. I just didn't put bullet points on it, but you can still use a list if you need to. Let's see. I am moving. Okay, so we have a little bit of animation that we put in here, and finding your tone. We put that. Got the little microphone.
Oh God! Stop.
And then we want to use the little sliders. So we just started with these. We'll kind of go through it quickly. Finding your tone. And then we had, well, I don't know if this is going to animate because I put your slides in between it. There we go.
There it is.
And then we said see it in action. So this is how her process works. And you can see it for a client. You can see how those sliders work and everything. And then this one, just get it right. That just begged to be visualized. I had to do that. So now I've shown the chocolate chip cookies.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So this is where visualization really comes in, where you can connect with people. And she's talking about just, how you can talk about things and make it sound that much better. So I'm like, see it in action. You have tired, and we have, the content better, cookies look a little better. And then you have way better. Sweet tooth. Hey, sweet tooth. Cookies here. And she had all of us, and I'm trying to eat healthy. She has all of us on here. I'm like showing these, and I'm just going, I can't eat all that. But let me just say, if Rebecca's not baking the chocolate chip cookies, buy you some Tates. If you're going to count calories, totally, they're not paying me any money. I'm just saying those are my favorite cookies. Shamelessly say that.
Hey,
so, let me just
awesome.
say, after I worked with Rebecca on this presentation, and that's not all of it, but I was teaching her my concepts and showing her why I did things the way that I did them, how that fits into the simplify, organize, visualize. So she calls me at like some insane hour, like 4:30 in the morning. I don't even know.
It was like
that early.
It was like 7:30 or something in the morning. And I'll interrupt you for just a moment to say, like, this is the most, what you're about to show and the experience that you're sharing is the most rewarding and amazing part about what I've chosen to do as a profession. I mean, I know when people are like, I can't believe I get to wake up every day and this is my job, but I can't believe I get to wake up every day and this is my job, because I learn so much from every expert that I have to write for. I can't possibly write your website copy if I don't understand how it what your positioning is and your messaging and how it all fits in the world. So I have this like amazing unfair advantage of just learning intensely about all these different subjects one-on-one with people who are passionate about them. And I didn't start out to impress you, Jody. I needed to put together a presentation, and I needed to do it based on, and I just was
You
like,
killed it.
I
You
can't
killed it.
not.
And I only put
So
a few slides
thank
in
you.
here from it. So I'm just going to show a few of the slides.
Yeah,
And it
okay.
just has simple messaging. Apparently both of us like bears. We have a thing for bears. I'm not sure we have
Saturn loves bears as well.
read into that however you want. When should we be seeking it out? Let's leverage it. Look, she's visualized it. It's simple messaging, 1 point per slide. And then she has this one this is perfect. Like, she goes, do I need to do anything? I'm like, no. Like,
I'll wait for your notes. And they were like, never coming.
So yeah, I have to put up one of my favorite slides. I'm not going to show because I know we're probably pressed on time.
We're not. You have time.
I have a little bit of time. Okay.
Yeah,
This
you
is
still
one
have
of
20
my favorite
minutes.
things. I talk about the importance of messaging and having clear communication, because we live in this age of information overload. We all look like that, and that's the best visualization I have ever seen on a stock photo. So I had to put it on there. But there's so many concepts, that just simple things that you can apply that really, really will help you in creating your presentations. And this is one thing. I love this. Donald Miller wrote a book called Story Brand, and it's fabulous. And he talks a lot about different things. This is a little bit of a thing from that, of thinking of a story. Anytime you can incorporate story in, I think it always, build some intrigue, give them something to think about and remember it. We remember stories more than we remember data and statistics. So think of, yourself as a guide. Your hero is your audience, and they have challenge. It's your job to help them avoid failure and guide them to success. And you think about Yoda being to Luke Skywalker, right? I think that's just the greatest way to think about it. But I want to show you an example. There was a nonprofit that I worked with called Both Ends Believing. They deal with finding children their forever homes in a lot of different countries and things like that. They have a wonderful vision and a wonderful mission. And this slide looks good, right? It's beautiful. It's got their logo on it. It says, what they believe. It's got a great image of a girl with a globe. And I love this. But when I glance at that and I look away from it, all I remember is the word vision and mission. I don't remember what they actually are. So we changed it to tell a story. And we put this little boy up and said, there's a silent crisis going on. Do you know about it? And you just look into his eyes and you're like, whoa, I need to know what this is. This is what creates the intrigue. And then they can talk about their mission and their vision of helping children like this, and that there are millions of kids that don't have a home because they don't have data on them, and they need to be able to track them and have information available. So it's kind of like that. And I talked a little bit about the agenda earlier, about don't use an agenda. And here's why. It just puts everything on there. And if your audience is in the room with you, they kind of know why they're there. So don't go through all that. They're just going to look at it because this is what you're showing them. This is what they see. Blah, blah, blah. When will this be over?
Oh, wow.
So start with a story. Give them something exciting, and there you go.
Blah, blah, blah. More stories, blah, blah, blah.
And the PowerPoint.
Okay. Ta-da! That was so neat. You just don't really kind of get the potential of a slide deck to supplement a presentation until you've seen it. I'm so glad you brought those slides over from, like, the silent killer in these 7-year-olds' eyes. That you brought some of that stuff over so we could really see how much of an impact it can make on your audience by doing it in the Jody Wissing way, as we like to say over here at Stone Fruit. The Jody Wissing way.
Jody Wissing way. That's scary.
What's been the coolest presentation you've ever worked on that you and you don't have to say mine this one right now. In fact, don't do it.
Oh gosh, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. I think one of them that I visualized, I might probably have showed you this at some point. I had to do a presentation for the technology company I worked for that was kind of data flow, and they gave me this kind of chart that had all these pieces. I didn't even know what half this stuff was, and I'm like, what are you trying to tell people that we do here? Like, I don't even know what all this means. And it's just simplified of, oh, we're talking about how data flows from here, here, and here. And so I was able to take this and animate this whole process so you can see the data flowing through all of these different things and ending up in what, if anybody works with data, you know how you end up with dashboards or reports, or, you have to be able to use that data to make good decisions in your business. And that's exactly what we did. And it showed, like, everybody that saw it, you could just see the light bulbs going off in their head. So I think that's probably one of the most fun ones I worked on.
When you see those light bulbs, baby, that's the best. That's the best feeling. I love that. Tony wants to know if AI is now impacting your work and workflow and workday.
I'm so glad you asked.
So, are you using Becky much?
I use ChatGPT, which I also call Becky, which when Rebecca's not available, I have to use her alter ego, Becky.
So how do I know I actually do have an alter ego named Becky?
304. But it's perfect. So how I like to use ChatGPT, because again, new technology, everybody's still fighting over, do you own the copy? Who owns the copy? We've all found out that there's some things out there that can not be correct, and you have to still go find that. It's a huge time saver, but here's how I use it. I use it to organize and come up with structure. So I on the Presentation Guild board of directors and working on the website. We're redoing our website, and I had to put together a proposal. Well, I don't typically do websites as much as I do presentations, so I go out there and I ask for, what does a good proposal have in it? And girlfriend comes up with all kinds of good stuff. And I was able to structure my stuff off of that. And so I use it for presentations in the same way. I kind of brainstorm things. I use it to brainstorm. Becky and I brainstorm together. and it gives me structure around things, or gives me ways to maybe reword some things that I'm struggling with, that I can't quite get the messaging right on. But I use it for, give me 10 ways to reword this, or tell me a structure for such and such. I work on it similar to what Rebecca was saying. If I'm working on a presentation for a client, I have to understand their business. I have clients all over the board with different stuff, and I have to understand all of it on some level to be able to communicate it well. And so to be able to get some extra understanding of a concept that maybe I'm not the subject matter expert. I can't be the expert, but I have to be a subject matter knowledgeable in order to be able to do the presentation well. So that's how I use it. I don't copy and paste from it. I don't think that's a good idea at this point, because nobody really knows who owns that content, and it could just come back and bite you in the butt.
What about imagery? I'm curious.
Oh my gosh. If you like people that have like 6 fingers and just like awkward, like I just haven't gotten there on the images yet. There's a lot of good AI capabilities as far as pulling out a backdrop, changing some things in a natural good photo, but I don't think it's there yet. Like for things with like drawings, or when you're doing something that's maybe not a realistic photo, I haven't seen realistic photos that it's kind of like you look and it's like something's off. You don't know what it is until you look at the detail, but it's just can kind of feel funny. So
it's your observation there is funny, because just last week I'm on this tech forward live panel show, which I really don't belong on because I'm not really like a techie person, but I love my co-host. I love my co-host and I love the originator of the show, Ross Brand. So I have fun and I just show up and try and bring as much as I can to the conversation. I'm the Karamo of the show, I think. And we were just talking last time about AI comes up all the time, and one of the other panelists, Rob Greenlee, is a huge like AI. I don't want to say aficionado because that implies something, but he knows a lot about it. He's following it, and he talks a lot about it in terms of like the trust factor of it, which is the name of one of his shows. Anyway, I digress. We were talking about just the idea that it's my prediction that humanity will become so finely attuned that we're really going to be able to see it. I hope. Well, they'll just be like, I think our just will evolve as humans to have a more sharper kind of bullshit meter for it. Although I did hear this interesting statistic that, or not a statistic, or prediction from a totally different source that today we see a picture and we assume that it's real until we're proven it's fake. And in 3 years, it will be the other way around. We'll assume it's fake until you can prove it's real. Anyway, that's my 2 cents for the AI conversation for real. Saturn says that AI art and images are easy to catch, that the bullshit meter is there. Now, of course, some people would say it's going to refine itself so much over time that we won't be able to catch
it will. I mean, it's definitely going to evolve like anything else. I think it has its place. Adobe has done an amazing job of incorporating it into their neural filters and Sensei, Adobe Sensei, if you're familiar with any of that, to have those as tools to use AI to manipulate images is off the charts. Like it's a time saver more than anything else. Chat GPT is a time saver, right? Because it writes copy and it does like these things that might take you 12 hours to go out and research, and you get in 12 minutes, and do all this stuff. Well, seconds really. But it's kind of the same way. And you use it to enhance what you have. And I think any new technology, like you can't ignore it and say, oh, we can't use it because it's out there. You can
That'd be like saying
I'm an early adopter on everything. Like I'll just like whatever, I'm gonna use it, I'm gonna try it, I want to play, but
I mean, otherwise it's gonna be like saying I'm not gonna use that newfangled internet.
Yeah, look at Blockbuster.
It's gonna have that much of an impact.
I didn't work for Blockbuster, and they were like, this whole streaming thing is stupid, and you're like, what? Okay, yeah, that worked well for you.
Pivot or die, I guess. Adapt or adapt and overcome.
Gotta use it. Sure. You just have to be smart about it. Any new technology, you have to be cautious with it. You have to see how to use it. It's a lot of trial and error, and when you're willing to own that. And I tell clients, if I use Chat GPT, because some people are just kind of wiggy about it, so I just say, hey, here's what I used it. Here's how I used it. Are you okay with that? And everybody has been so far. So.
Well, Rob Greenlee calls for an AI constitution, and I couldn't be more behind that idea. It's somebody that we at least try as a society to identify what's the line, and give us all some guidelines for behavior around what could easily be a nefarious entity. So I think an AI constitution is a good idea. Anyway, good question, Tony, because that brought up a lot of discussion, which is awesome. Jody, as we're nearing out our time here on the Stone Fruit Roll-Up, and my dog is shaking, tell the good folks at home where they can find you.
Well, since my website is under construction, we'll call it that, I have somebody building that out, and it's probably going to be about another month. You can find me on LinkedIn. I believe it's up at the top of the comments. If not, we'll add it in there and make sure that you have it. That's probably the best place to find me right now. And I did get my shot out there this morning. I'm excited.
Oh my God! We're gonna post that with this return for sure. Jody, I hope that you'll come back and spend time with us on a future roll-up when your website is ready, because I wrote the copy.
I know.
You did the design. You did the architecture and flow of it. So it'll be very cool for us to showcase that whenever it is done. So B, that's something to wet your whistle, Stone Fruit Roll Up audience, that future Jody and I will come back and look at that delicious website. Will you come join us, Jody, one more time? Or 2 more times?
Absolutely.
Or 100 more times?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Might be from a tent, but yeah, I'll be there.
I
Starlink
might be from a
internet.
tent. I might be from a tent. We can be
We'll both
double
in tent. How's
tenting.
that?
Yeah, I'm for it. I like to work from the canoe, is what I used to say back in the old days. When work from home was so controversial, I had to fight for it so hard at the nonprofit I worked for, and it just became this like bone of contention. But I would, when I was off, I would call it working from the canoe. So you and I can work from the canoe. If folks here today took one thing away from your presentation and really embrace the ROI of DIY, what would you want them to do?
That's a loaded question. Like one thing. Wait.
Okay, if you had a magic wand and could bestow it on the Stone Fruit Roll Up Live
Just,
audience.
you know what? I think it's to go with simplicity. If you have to do a presentation and you're either overwhelmed with it, no matter what you have going on with it, simplicity, everybody can relate to simplicity on some level. And just do that, put a picture up, put a couple of words up, keep it really simple. And well, maybe 2 things. Don't limit yourself to the number of slides. I think that's where people really lose it, because they try to stuff so much stuff on one slide. You just can't do that. Nobody knows how many slides you have. I've proven that 100 times over. So just use as many slides as you need to get your message across. There's no magic number. More is better. It doesn't mean your presentation will be longer. It means it's going to be more engaging.
And have some motion to it, which is super
that too.
exciting. I'm going to take one last page out of the JT handbook and ask you, what's one question I should have asked you but didn't?
Oh my goodness. I think you asked everything. We got into all the stuff that I had ready and prepared, and you gave me segues into all of it. I can't think of anything. I will at 2:00 in the morning, and I'm going to.
Oh my God, you better. I'm going to be like, write a blog post about it. Jody thought of her question. You're right. It's a little. I'll come up with another innovation question. I'll sign up. I'll sign up for the 10-day curiosity challenge at 304coaching.com.
I know. That looks fun.
Yeah, you should sign up for that, folks. You can see Jody's graphics and my copy. Go to 304coaching.com and sign up for the 10-day curiosity challenge to help you become a more innovative and curious leader. How's that pitch for our common client? I know. Very, very good. Jody, this was awesome. I had such a fun time. It was so cool to revisit that slide deck. I'm so looking forward to what's coming from you next. I knew you when you were still working for the man. And now that you've hung out your own shingle, I couldn't be more proud. And I just adore you. And every time I open up my Buc-ee's soft-sided lunchbox in tie-dye.
Buc-ee's too.
In tie-dye, I think of you for sure. And I'll see you around the water cooler over there at 304. And the next time you come back and visit us at the Stone Fruit Roll Up, your weekly live show on Thursdays here on LinkedIn and YouTube at high noon Eastern Standard Time. And I guess that makes it 9 a.m. California time, ? I hope so. Anyway, Jody, thank you. You were a magical unicorn pooping rainbows, and I love you.
Rainbows. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye, everybody. And the broadcast.